PS2 ports. It is mainly used to interface keyboard and pointing devices like mouse as well as touch pads. Usually in the telephone with the help of landline, if I want to take the internet process, then we using this modem. Whereas in this MIDI, we can able to connect the musical instrument, whereas the MIDI stands for Musical Instrumental Digital Interface. Welcome back to one and all. Myself, Vasanta, lecturer in Computer Science, Vidhyaashram, Pre-University College, Temple of Excellence, Mysore. Today, we are going to start with the third session of typical configuration of computer system. Whereas in the previous class, you come to know already regarding the components of motherboard. Under that, the processor, what is the main use of processor, how it is arranged, what is the functionalities of processor. Then BIOS, that is basic input output system. The functionalities of basic input output system, that means whenever we will switch on the system, on that time this program will be loaded and it helps to perform all input device operation as well as output device operations. Then CMOS, that is complementary metal oxide semiconductor, to store the basic information like date and time on the system. Then memory as well as expansion slots. What do you mean by memory? Which are the expansion slot? What are the functionalities of expansion slot? With that, disk controller, regarding hard disk controller as well as floppy disk controller. All those things you have studied in the previous class. Today we will explain regarding input-output ports. There is a difference between slots as well as ports. Whereas slots is nothing but opening inside the motherboard, there we can able to insert additional printed circuit board. Whereas ports are also opening in the system, but we are using, especially these ports are used to connect additional devices. Now, when they come on input-output ports, it is used to connect external devices. It is used to connect external devices like printers, keyboard, scanner to the computer. It's a place where we can able to insert additional devices. When they come on different types of ports, there we have serial port, parallel port, IDE port, that is integrated digital electronic port, USB port, AGP, that is accelerated graphic port, SCSI port, VGA port, that is visual graphic adapter port, then PS2 port, that is personal system 2 ports. With that you have power connector, firewall port, modem, Ethernet port, game port for gaming purpose, DVI port, that is digital video interface port, sockets as well as MIDI port. These are the several types of ports in the motherboard we are using, like serial, parallel, USB, AGP, SCSI, VGA, PS2, modem, firewall, Ethernet port, game port, like that. Now, one by one we'll discuss. First, we'll discuss about serial port. The serial port is also known as communication port or RS-232 ports. It is used to connecting communication devices like mouse and modems. Especially this port, this is the serial port. Here, this port is mainly used to connect the devices like mouse as well as modems. They are used to connecting communication devices like mouse as well as modem. Mainly, this is a place where we can able to connect the additional devices like mouse as well as modem. And usually, it will transfer only one bit at a time. At a time, only one bit of data it can able to transfer. And this is the serial port. Next, we'll discuss about parallel port. Whereas, this is the parallel port. Whereas here, in this parallel port are mainly used to connect additional or external input-output devices like printers as well as scanners. For that purpose, we are using this parallel port, whereas this is serial port and this is a parallel port. Whereas in parallel port, at a time, it will transfer 8 bit of data at a time it will transfer. It is also known as printer port, and usually it will carries 8 bit at a time. Parallel ports comes in the form of 22 pins connector. Here if you observe 22 pin connectors we have. Whereas serial port will transfer only 1 bit at a time. Whereas parallel port transfer 8 bit at a time. The major important thing you have to remember. Then with that serial ports are used to connect mouse as well as modems. Whereas parallel ports are mainly used to connect printers and scanner. These two are very important. Here serial is used to connect mouse as well as modem, whereas parallel is used to connect printer as well as scanner. Next we'll discuss about IDE port, that is integrated digital electronic port. Usually in part A you will get a questions, expand the given word like IDE, SCSI, like that you will get the questions. Whereas IDE stands for integrated digital electronic port. This is the integrated digital electronic port. Whereas CD-ROM drives, hard disk drives are connected to the motherboard through IDE port. With the help of IDE port, we can able to connect CD-ROM drives, we can able to connect hard disk drives, we can able to connect to the motherboard. And the next one is USB port. Whereas this is the USB port where we can able to connect the additional devices like pen drive and all we are connecting to the USB port. USD stands for Universal Serial Bus. Whereas IDE stands for Integrated Digital Electronic Ports. USB stands for Universal Serial Bus. Whereas nowadays all the ports are replaced by USB port pattern only. Whereas in the previous case, in old system, we are using PS2 port to connect mouse as well as keyboard. But nowadays, what we have, all the keyboards as well as mouse are nowadays replaced by USB ports only. Whereas USB ports is a plug and play interface between a computer and add-on devices. Plug and play. Then what do you mean by plug and play devices? Whenever we want, we can able to insert, and whenever we don't want, on that time we can able to remove that. For example, floppy disk if I consider, on that time if I want to open that or if I want to insert any floppy, on that time we should need the power supply. Then only we can able to insert floppy disk as well as hard disk. Whereas in USB, it is a plug and play devices. We used to call it as plug and play. Without power also, we can able to insert this to the port, and if the power supply is also not there, on that time also we can able to remove that. And it gives easy to use connector to a variety of peripherals. Whereas on this USB port, I can able to insert pen drive, hard disk port. If I want, I can consider to connect hard disk, additional hard disk also. We can able to connect additional floppy disk also. We can able to connect, as well as if I want, I can able to connect keyboard, mouse, everything I can able to connect on this USB port. Then it includes printers, scanners, speakers, camera, etc. These are the additional devices we can able to insert on this USB port, and it supports data speed of 12 megabytes per second. Whereas IDE is used to connect hard disk, additional hard disk, CD-ROM. To connect that, we need this IDE port, whereas USB port acts like a plug and play devices, and here this mainly used to connect printers, scanners, speakers, plotters. If I want, I can able to connect keyboard as well as mouse also by using USB port. Next, we'll discuss about PS2 ports, that is Personal System 2 ports. These are the PS2 ports. It is mainly used to interface keyboard and pointing devices like mouse as well as touch pads. These ports mainly used to connect a keyboard as well as mouse. Whereas pointing devices is nothing but pointing wherever we want, that is mouse. These can be called as pointing devices. Whereas a PS2 port is mainly used to connect mouse as well as keyboard. And it uses synchronous serial signals to communicate between the keyboard as well as mouse. It mainly uses synchronous serial signals are used, whereas in PS2 to communicate between mouse as well as keyboard. The next one, AGP port, that is accelerated graphic port. Accelerated graphic. If you get the word graphic, then it mainly relates on video purpose. Whereas it is used to connect graphic cards. Consider whatever system you have, on that system if the graphic is not displaying properly or the pixel if it is very less, on that time by using additional graphic card we can able to increase the pixels on your monitor. We can able to increase the clarity of your monitor by using this AGP port, that is accelerated graphic port. It is mainly used for graphic purpose and it provides high speed video performance required in games and other media applications. Mainly it is used to, this is the AGP port. Here we can able to insert additional devices for to increasing the graphic for performance. Next we will discuss on SCSI, that is Small Computer System Interface. Small computer, this is the example for small computer system interface. And it is used to add external devices such as hard disk as well as CD-ROM. Here it's a devices where we can, it's a place where we can able to insert additional devices like hard disk as well as CD-ROM. Why we required additional ROM to increase the performance? Then it is a fast data transfer and input-output operation. Very fastly we can able to transfer the data within input as well as output devices. This is mainly used to connect additional hard disk purpose. We need this particular port. And for expansion as well as, and it is with that it is expensive also. We can able to increase the performance. It is very expensive. Faster access at high speed of data. It access very speedily. We can able to access the data very speedily. And the next one, VGA, that is Visual Graphic Adapter. Once again, when we come on visual graphic, then it mainly relates on video purpose. Then it is connects monitors to a computer system, especially video cards. Here, this is the place where we can able to connect our monitor. It's a VGA port is the place where we can able to connect our monitors. And it holds 15 holes in that particular place. There we can able to connect all the monitors. Next we'll discuss about power connector. What do you mean by this power connector? It has three pronged plugs. It connects to computer power cable. To connect power, if I want to process on the system, must and should we need power supply to the system. That can be done on this power connector place. On that particular port, we can able to connect the power to all the components of the system. Next one, firewall port. This is the firewall port. Here, this is the firewall port. Here, it transfers large amount of data at a very high speed. It transfers large amount of data at very high speed and it connects video equipment to the computer. Video equipment we can able to connect here and the data travel at 400 to 800 megabytes per second. It can able to transfer and it comes with 4 pin to 400 connector, 6 pin to 400 connector and 9 pin to 800 connectors we are getting here. This is nothing but firewall. Next we will discuss about modem. Modem is used for especially for internet purpose. It is connect a PC modem to the telephone network. Usually in the telephone with the help of landline, if I want to take the internet process, then we using this modem, especially for internet purpose with the help of telephone network cable. Then the next one, Ethernet port. This is the Ethernet port. Whereas the modem, whereas here this is the Ethernet port. Whereas Ethernet ports are used to connect a network and high-speed internet. Whereas modem as well as Ethernet port both are used for networking purpose only. Whereas here networking with high-speed interface and this port resides on the Ethernet card. It resides on Ethernet card and travel data at 10 megabytes to 1000 megabytes per second. It can able to transfer the data. Whereas modem as well as Ethernet port both are used for networking purpose. Next we will discuss about game port. Already you know that game port is mainly used for gaming purpose, where it is used to connect to a computer with the help of joystick. There, with the help of joystick, I can able to connect all the gaming devices to the computer through game port. This is the game port. There, I can able to connect all the gaming devices. Next one, DVI port, that is digital video interface port. Digital, it connects to LCD monitor to the computer videos graphic card. Here DVI, that is digital video, you will get the word video. It means for to increase the capability of the monitor, especially to increase the pixels on your monitor. Connect LED monitor to a computer video graphic cards. Next, we'll discuss about sockets. Socket is a place where we can use it to connect microphones, speakers to sound cards to the computer system. Speakers and all we are connecting to this sockets. This is the sockets. Then this is the MIDI. Whereas in this MIDI, we can able to connect the musical instrument. Whereas the MIDI stands for musical instrumental digital interface. Musical, the name itself represents musical. It means that this is mainly used to connect musical devices designed to transmit information between electronic musical instrument. Now is it clear? Once again I am to recall all the ports one by one. Whereas when we come on ports, there are several types of ports like serial, parallel, IDE, USB, AGP, SCSI, VGA, PS2 port, power connector, firewall, modem, Ethernet, game port, DVI, sockets as well as MIDI. Serial transfers only one bit at a time. Parallel ports are used to connect, transfer 8 bit at a time, whereas in serial port, mouse as well as for modem purpose we are using serial port, whereas the parallel ports are mainly used to connect printers as well as scanners. IDE, it stands for Integrated Digital Electronic. Here it is mainly used to connect additional hard disk, whereas USB port is nothing but universal serial bus used to connect pen drive and all additional devices like keyboard, mouse, monitor. There we can able to connect. Then the next one, PS2 ports is mainly used to connect keyboard as well as mouse, pointing devices like mouse. That is personal system 2 port. And AGP, accelerated graphic port. It is mainly to connect graphic cards. For that purpose, we need this AGP port, graphic cards, to increase the performance of the monitor. Then SCSI, that is small computer system interface. This is used to connect external hard disk or CD-ROM. For that purpose, we need this SCSI. Then VGA, that is visual graphic adapter. This is mainly used to connect the monitors. This is the place where we can able to connect the monitors. Next, power connector is required to supply power to all the components of the computer. If I want to run any motherboard or any system there, the power supply has to be there. That can be done by this power connector port. Then firewall port, it is a large amount of data it can able to transfer. It connects video equipments, especially it will use it to connect video equipments. Next one, modem as well as Ethernet port, both are used to connect internet to your system, whereas modem, here the power supply or the data will transfer with the help of telephone network line. This is the modem device. Through this we can able to access the network. Then Ethernet port, this is the Ethernet port. Here it is to connect network and high speed interface. This is a port resides on the Ether card. Then gaming port is mainly used for gaming purpose. MIDI port is used to connect gaming purpose also, whereas game port as well as MIDI. There is a difference between game port as well as MIDI. Whereas gaming port is mainly for gaming purpose, MIDI port is mainly used to get music on that systems. Whereas DVI port, that is digital video interface, it is used to connect LCD monitors to your system. Sockets, place where we can able to connect. MIDI is used to get the musical instrument, especially MIDI is used to get to connect musical instrument. Next class, we will meet with the remaining concept of the same chapter, like what do you mean by RAM, what do you mean by ROM, which are the types of RAM and ROM, what do you mean by bus, how bus are connected, what is the difference between internal bus, the difference between external bus, how exactly it will work. Then with that, you will come to know the power supply. Then with that, cache memory. Cache memory is a high-speed memory. It is a place between RAM as well as processor. Regarding that, you will come to know in the next class. Thank you for all of you.